G'day and welcome back. Welcome back to part 3 of my Paillard Radio from Switzerland. The model number is 3601B. In part 1 and halfway through part 2, I had trouble getting the actual chassis to work. It kept catching fire and not working. It had lots of troubles. The radio is working.
The pricing, some seats will be more expensive.
So in the second half of part 2, I started to restore the case, which is in pretty ordinary condition, as you can see. I did manage to get it into a reasonable state. I stained it on the last bit of part 2 and is now ready for clear coat. The stain on the case has been drying overnight and I'm rubbing it down with a tack cloth that attracts any dust that may accumulate on it overnight while it's been sitting here. Now I've been using Delac's Duramax to spray these lately, and when I went to buy some yesterday, all they've got is this now. It just says spray. So it reads exactly the same as the old Duramax, so I'm hoping it's the right stuff. As usual, I'm going to give this about 6 coats. It takes a day or so to even do it because you've got to allow about an hour or so between coats. Depending on how it goes on, I might sand it about halfway through just to smooth it off halfway through. So maybe about 3 coats. I'll give it a quick sand, light sand, and then continue. Unfortunately, I need to remove the camera while I spray it, so we can't record that, but I'll show you how it's going as we go along. This has got about 3 coats on it, and it's coming up okay. Around here, it's not so good. I should have grain filled it. I didn't bother. I thought it was smooth enough, but it would have benefited from a bit of grain filler. The wooden frame or escutcheon across the front is coming up really nice, and I knew it would because it's a solid timber. I did say I might sand it partway through, but I don't think I'll bother. Sometimes it picks up bits of paint that comes off the spray can and just sort of sets it on there. Well, there's a bit there, actually. There's a bit there. It just brushes off. So far I'm happy with it. I might put a couple of extra coats on just to give it a bit more depth and allow a bit more sanding due to the not having the grain filler in there. I finished spraying the case yesterday. It has about 7 coats on it, but I'm not at all happy with it. As I said, as I was doing it, I should have put grain filler in it, and it really needs it. This grain is so open, and I thought it was all right. I looked at it before I started to apply the finish, and it looked all right, but it's not. It's really open. This area up the top is fantastic right here. I made a slurry up of filler and I put it all over there. There were some scratches in there, so I filled them up and that's come up really nice. The other end here, you can see all the grain in it. So I'm going to strip this off and I'm going to put grain filler on it this time and we'll start again. But I won't show you all that. I'll come back when it's all finished and it'll be at this stage again. It's been about 3 days since the last bit of video and I've stripped it back, put some grain filler on it, I restained it and I used a lighter colour this time. It's either oak or elm, I can't remember now, one of the two, so it's a lot lighter than it was. The walnut was just too dark for it. I'm going to let this dry for about a week and then I'll sand it back and cut it back with some cutters and it should look alright, I think. It's certainly not the best case I've ever done and it's got some damage over here. Look, I'm really not happy with it. Anyway, that's what it is. I can't do much about it. So while that's drying, I'll move on to something else. I'm going to replace the cloth on this speaker baffle plate. I had hoped to use the old one. It looked in pretty good condition. I soaked it in some pre-soaked stain remover. I had 2 objectives for that. One, that it may release the fabric, and the other one was that it would clean it. I would have been happy with either one. It ended up releasing it and cleaning it. Unfortunately, it has just fallen apart. It's dissolving in front of me. I do have a piece of cloth here that's very similar, so I'll use that. I'll see what that looks like. But first I've got to do a bit of work to this. This speaker is a replacement speaker, it's not the original, and it doesn't line up with the little bolts there. The original speaker would not have had holes in it, and it had little clips that came over and held this down. There's a photo here I found on Radio Museum, so that's what it would have looked like. I could make some clips up, but I don't think I want to. I'm going to move the bolts in so we'll pick up the holes in the speaker. I'll remove the nuts off the bolts here. I'll have to unscrew these from the board. They're either a very tight fit or they've screwed them in. I'm not sure. Very hard to get out. There it is. I eventually got all those screws out. I've used the existing holes to line up where I need the new ones. And I've come in 10mm from the old hole. That should line up with the new speaker. Just lost a bit of wood there. I'll just glue it back on. I'll countersink the new holes. Alright, let's try the screw in there. Nice. Okay, I'll do the rest of them, put the nuts on and come back. Alright, all the screws are in. I better make sure the speaker fits, I guess. There, that's alright. Okay, so what I think I might do is I'll kill the bottom of these with 5-minute epoxy. I'll put the nuts on and let it set. I'll take the nuts off and the screws should be fixed in position. I'll let that sit there for an hour or so till the adhesive goes off, then I'll take the speaker off. I can put the cloth on. The adhesive I use for the screws is dried and I've smoothed them off. So I'm ready to put the cloth on. Unfortunately, the cloth I'm going to use has this embroidered area here and there's one up here. So I've got to try and make sure it fits in the opening that's on the radio. I've transferred the opening size using these bits of tape and then I've transferred it onto my ruler. So if I can get these bits of embroidering between the bit of tape there, I'll be okay. I think I'll have to stretch it a little bit. As usual, I use this Sally's quick grip. That lets me move it around if I need to. I'll have to let that tack off so that it doesn't soak back into the cloth. That's tacked off enough. Hopefully that'll hold. As I said, I'll have to kind of stretch it. So let's see how we're going. That bit's out. This bit's going to show. I'm stretching this as much as I can to make sure we clear that. I'm not sure how we're going. Let's have a look. This end's okay. That end is just going to show. I finally got it right. It's in the center. I was struggling with it. I turned the camera off. I just couldn't do everything. So I've turned the camera off and I've stretched it on. It's good. Looks good. Something else I need to address is this back panel. It has that water stain on it and it's also quite bowed. So I need to flatten that out. What I normally do is just put some cling film underneath, wet the back, cling film on top and then I'll wait. Let's have a look at this back. I did wet it again and I've turned it over. I looked at it after about a day and it still had the bow in it, so I ended up just wetting around the edges and I left the centre dry and it seems to have come out. Yeah, look, it's pretty flat. Yeah, it's not bad. So that worked all right. This is where the power terminal plugs onto the back and that's the original colour, so it's gone rather brown, hasn't it? Now, how do I get rid of this? Trying a little bit of peroxide in the corner there. Just wiping it off with a bit of water here. Alright, I'll let that dry out and see what it looks like. Right, that didn't work. I've tried a couple of things, nothing's working. I'm wondering if I can sand it off and try and get rid of that and then I'll, I don't know, put some colour through it or something. I'll lose these, but I can put them back on, that's no problem. But it's sanding pretty well actually. I'll keep going and see if I can get rid of that. Alright, there it is. It's come back to the original colour. I took the whole top off that brown and that's pretty much the original colour. You can't see it. So, that was it there. So yeah, that's pretty good. Got rid of most of it. You could probably see it if you wanted to, but generally looking at it you won't see it. You can see the little mark along there. I've got some matte clear paint there. I might spray it with that and then I'll put some stickers on and reinstate the little symbols and logo that it had on there. I put some matte clear coat on here so it's almost gone black again. Anyway, it looks good. What I need to do is put the stickers back on and I've made up some little stickers here. This is from my vinyl cutter, so these are vinyl stickers. They all just stick on, they're self-adhesive. This Paillard sticker was about here and it lined up with the bottom of that hole there. So if I'm just using a ruler here to try and make sure I get it on straight as I can. I don't want that line there, so I'd left the ruler there so it didn't stick to the back plate here, on the backboard. So just smooth it down, or try and get it to glue. Oh, broke it. Have to get a new one. Alright. With a bit of luck, I can peel this back and the writing will stay there. The little speaker symbols next. I've got the ruler again to make sure it's all straight and level. I won't show all these. I'll just say that it's exactly the same procedure for each one. So just peel it back. And there's the speaker. Okay, I'll do the other two and that'll be the back finished. It's new knob time. I'm going to attempt to make a replica of this knob here. This is the wave change switch knob on the side of the radio. I've put a bit of tape in there so we still get the hole, but the mixture doesn't go in here. The last knob that I made, I only did the top half of the knob. I didn't have to worry about the back so much. So this one I've got to do the back and the front. So it's a little bit different. So I've made up this little cup here. This is printed, of course, and I've filled the bottom half with Play-Doh. And I've also printed this little pusher. It has little locating cones on the top there, so when I make the second half of the mould, it knows where to go. It locates them. So I'll put that in there, and I should be able to give it a good push there, because I can't get it out now, can I? There we go. And that's giving me a reasonably flat surface. And I'll put the knob in there, like that. Then I'm going to pour the rubber solution around it. This is a 2-part silicone mix, and I'll put in, I don't know, try 30. That'll be 60. I'll try 32. So I'll go for 64 with this lot, see if we've got enough. I told my wife I was going to make a new knob. She said, I hope it's better than the last one. I thought the last one looked pretty good. I put it on that Philco radio. Anyway, alright, coming up to 64, there we go. I need to mix this thoroughly, and then I'll put it in the vacuum, pull all the bubbles out that I'm putting in now, and then we can pour it in the mould. You can see the bubbles coming out now. That whole quantity is increased as the bubbles expand. So I'll just let that sit for 5 minutes for the bubbles to come out. Let's see what happens. That's about the right quantity. That was a good guess. I forgot to say I sprayed all the insides there with release agent, so it should come out again, and I'll have to leave it there for about an hour. Okay, that's gone off. I'll take it out of the mould. Now it should be a matter of just pulling it away from the edges. Now the bottom comes off, and I can try pushing it out the top. There it is. This really hasn't worked. The knob is supposed to be flush with that, not sticking down there. It's sunk into the Play-Doh, I think. Oh well, and some of it's gone inside, so my little seal didn't work. Oh gosh. Alright, I'll keep going and see how I go. You know, you can learn, and then I'll maybe have to do it again and do it properly. I'll make the other half up. I'm pushing the mould back in with the little pusher there. There it is. I've put some release spray in there, so it's ready to put the next layer of silicone on. I'll do the next bit off camera. I'll mix it up, vacuum it, and I'll come back when we're ready to pour it. Alright, that's all mixed up. It's beautifully smooth inside. So all the bubbles are out. Okay. I'm finding that's taking about an hour before you can remove it from the mould, so I'll give it an hour or so and come back. Okay, that's dry. I'll just do the same again. Just pull it away from the sides. This one's a bit harder to get out. There we go. Okay, will it separate? That's the thing. Oh no. There it goes. There it goes. That looks pretty passable actually. Take that out. Those little locators now should just help me put it all together. There we go. So I need to put a means of getting the 2-part acrylic in there and filling it up. So I've got to cut some holes somewhere. I'll have to work it out. I'll come back when I've done that. This is the bottom of the knob, and I've made 3 holes in it. One of the holes goes into this area here, and hopefully that'll fill it all up and it'll come out these 2 holes here. When it's come out of there, I know it's full. I've got this ease release for doing silicone moulds. I'll go outside and spray all this and I'll come back in a second. Now I've just got to line up the little locators there. There we go. So that should be sealed. I'm going to use this 2-part crafty resin. I get this at the local hardware. It's pretty good, except it's clear. I would prefer white or something. I've got little measuring cups there. I'll measure them out, then I'll put it in there. I've mixed equal parts by volume. I've just got to stir it thoroughly. So I think you need to stir it for about 5 minutes. Let's see how this goes. That's what I thought. It's not big enough. I'll have to try and push it in, I think. I did wonder about being big enough. It's starting to come out here, so it has filled up. This is not a very good way of doing it, I'm sure. Alright, well it's come out both now. This takes about 24 hours to dry, so I'll have to leave it till tomorrow. I'll pull it out and see what sort of mess I've made. Let's see how this went. It's not totally hard yet. Have to try and break that off. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, I'll have to try and dig that out a bit. That bit of plastic in there was going to hold it back. Should come out now. Oh no, didn't fill up there. Alright, and that's as I thought. It's going to have a seam around there, but that can probably be cleaned off. And it's got a bubble in there, that won't matter. Not too bad, considering I pretty much messed it up. I reckon that'll clean up. Otherwise, I'll just make another one and do it properly. I could have saved the knob, but I thought about it and I thought I'll make it again. I'll do it the way I was going to do it originally, and that is have the knob upside down at first. So I pressed it flush with the Play-Doh, and that also puts the dimples in it. And the same procedure, rubber compound on the top. Let it set, take it out, turn it over, and fill it up with rubber compound again. Let that set. I made some holes in the top to put in the resin, and that went in pretty easily. I left it overnight for the resin to harden, and in the morning I was able to take it out, and it's perfect. It looks really good. Over the next few days I'll clean that up and paint it.
Where's my pink Play-Doh?
Yikes.
I have the case ready to cut back and polish. It's been drying for over a week now, so it's ready to go. It's quite hard. I want to avoid doing the same thing over and over again each video, so what I do first is rub it back with some fine wet and dry, then I use an automotive polish to just polish it up, and then a finer automotive polish, and that'll bring back a luster, but the finish will be smooth. So I do it wet with wet and dry paper. Now this is 600, or it's the European version of 600, not the American. You'll have to convert it. And it just takes a few wipes to get it to sort of start cutting. There it is there. You can see the where it hasn't been sanded, so I've got to keep going. I'll do a bit more. I've upgraded to P400 paper here, so it's a little bit coarser. This area here is getting close. Up here, yeah, still got lots to go. There it is there. It's pretty good. A little bit up there I've missed. I need to go a bit further. But that's what we're looking for, just that nice flat timber look. I'll keep going, do the whole cabinet. I'll come back when we're up to the next stage. I've rubbed back the tops, the sides. I've even done the front here very carefully. You don't want to go through the edges. It's ready for the next step. And the next step is to use some cutting compound. This is automotive compound. This is pretty coarse, so it cuts through it pretty fast. I'll wipe that cutting compound off. I'll have a closer look. Now I think you can see it's just one big matte surface now, all nice and flat. To save a bit of time, I'll just do the final step on this bit here. This is just a cream cut and polish. Just make it a bit wetter. I've just let that dry off for a bit, and I'll give it a clean with a clean cloth here, or a polish. And there it is, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's smooth, it's got no ripples, no bumps, and it looks good. Here's another angle of it. This is the polished bit, of course. There's the unpolished bit. It's really nice. It needs another polish. I was pretty quick doing that, but it needs a bit more work in it than that. I'll do those last two steps to the rest of it, of course. I'll come back and we'll have a look at it. There it is. It looks good. It's not perfect. It's not the best case I've ever done. The surround on the front looks good. I'm happy with that. You can probably still see a little bit of that stain there. Look, you wouldn't notice it. It doesn't stand out, but it's still there. I still have the two side plates to cut back. Once I've done that, I think we can assemble the front. I went to the tray to get the screws to put the front of the radio on, and I found this knob, and I'd forgotten that this edge here has been broken off. That's the inside edge. I need to rebuild that. First it needs to be polished up, and someone, and I've forgotten their name, I'm sorry, said, well, try this polishing paste number 5. It's from the British GPO, and they used to use it to clean, what it says here, contacts on telephone equipment and the Bakelite radios. So I'll give that a go to try and clean this knob up. A little bit on a rag here. Okay, so I did try this when I first got it on a Bakelite radio, or the top of one that had deteriorated while it was sitting on the shelf, and it worked pretty well. I've finished polishing it. It's not really coming up. Yeah, it's really deteriorated there. That area there was obviously sitting up and the sun's got to it. I've mounted the knob in the lathe here. I used a bit of wet and dry to clean off that discoloured part of the knob there, and it looks all right now. I need to rough up the inside of the knob so I can put some body filler in there. I've got a bit of coarse sandpaper here. Just put a key in there so the body filler will stick to it. That should do it. I have some shallot here. I'll give this a good drenching and make sure it's clean so the body filler will stick to it. Alright, I've got a bit of masking tape here. I'll try and see if it'll shape where I need to build up. It's an interesting tape. It's kind of a plasticky feel to it. I'll cut off the excess. Don't need quite that much. My plan is to fill that bit in there, of course, but I'll also go inside here just to reinforce the rest of the knob so it doesn't break off further around, and it also reinforces the repair. I'm laying the filler in here, and I'll need to do this a number of times and build it up gradually. Don't expect to get it all done in one shot. That'll do for round one. I'll let it set and I'll come back and clean it up. Let's go on hard. I'll see how it looks. I've moved that around. I did the nut up on the bottom, so it should stay there while I file it. Alright, that'll do. I have a bit of sandpaper here. I'll just try and level it out. That looks good. Righto. I'll try and sand that smooth and level with the original profile. That looks pretty good. There is a little divot there I've got to fill up, and I'll clean up in here, make it a bit neater. But that looks good. That'll be fine. The next thing to do is put these two edge panels in. They're glued in, so I'm going to put them in. I've got the back plate here, and I'm going to screw it all together and then glue it in. If I just glue them in now, the screws may not line up, so I'll just do that first. This one goes in there. And that one should go in there. There it is. The speaker back plate goes there, and then there's 4 screws to secure it to the 2 edge panels there. So I'll put the 4 screws in and make sure everything fits properly, and I can glue it. The 4 screws are in. They're not quite tight yet. Let's see if that... Yeah, okay. I was just wondering if I'd cleared that little embroidering bit there. I think you can just see the edge of it there. I bought the radio chassis out just to make absolutely certain. I think this could probably just be lifted up a little bit and centered there. Yeah. So that looks pretty good. All right, I can glue it back in. These are the original cleats they had. One went there, one over on this side, and they had 4 little ones that just went up in each corner, like that. Like that. There are 2 down the bottom as well. I have it where I want it now. It's pushed up and centered. I'll glue all those in. The bottom of the case originally had a bit of foil here as an RF shield. I've cut another piece off. I'll just glue it in and that'll do. This is quite thick aluminium. This is just spray on contact adhesive. I'll try and make it as smooth as I can. That looks remarkably good. There's a couple of holes here I need to punch through and the chassis will mount on it and electrically connect with that. To retain the back on the cabinet, it has these little swivels and they've got a screw through it, and you simply rotate it around and it holds the back in position. I only have 5, I need 6. There was one missing when I got the radio. So I'm going to try and make one. They're a pretty simple construction. It's just a flat bit of metal here, and they're shaped on the end there so you could round it up and make a little ball shape on the end there. They're just 2 domes, one each side, and they're bent up, and then a bit over the top there, a strip over the top. I could probably shape it, but I don't think I'll bother. I have a bit of brass here, and what I'm thinking is I'll just make a ball. I'll try to machine a ball there, make a flat plate, put a hole in the ball, and perhaps insert that and then solder it together. I'll have a go at that. I'll see how we go. I've never tried making a little ball head of a piece of brass. There it is, kind of ball shaped, and has a little hole in the bottom I can solder into. But boy, that's half an hour of my life I'm not getting back. I have a bit of brass plate, same thickness as this one. This one's steel, but I'll use brass. And I'll use that as a template. What I'm going to do is put a hole in there first, put a screw in there. That'll hold that flat, and then I'll just cut around it. I've marked where I want the hole. I'll center punch. I've put a screw and nut in there to hold the swivel, and this is the reason I drilled it first. If I drilled it last, it would no doubt be off center. I was trying to line that edge up there with that edge there, and it's just a mile away. So that's why I drilled it first. Now I can just shape around it. I'll rough the shape out with some snips, and then I'll clean it up. That's about as close as I'm going to get it. I'll just use a file or sanding wheel or something and give it the final shape. There's a little plate, came out okay. I've shaped this end here so that it fits in the countersink that the drill left in the ball. So I'll set it up so I can put some solder in there. I've mounted the ball in the vise. I've got some helping hands holding the top part. I'll put a little bit of extra flux in. I'll use the larger iron, that should sort it out. There we go. I've cleaned it up, it looks pretty good, I think. There's a real one, much the same, bit of fun. Everything's ready to go, so I can refit the chassis. There's 4 bolts to secure it from the bottom. I'll do that off camera. I'm trying to get the speaker in and it's just not going in. It's almost in. It's got 3 of the holes lined up. That one over there doesn't quite make it. And it's because it's hitting the top of the case here. So clearly this replacement speaker's got a bigger flange than the original one did. So I'll go and just open up the holes a little bit. That's about all I can do and it should fit. I've opened the holes up and then just putting the nuts on now. Now this filter choke has to go in there. I'm going to try and get this plug on. It's not easy. Oh well. Having said that, went straight on. I took the valves out so I could do the nuts up on the speaker. So I'll refit those. I can put the knobs on, they're all cleaned up, ready to go. That one goes on there. I'll put this one here. This is the wave change switch. Now these two are the volume. This is the one I repaired. So that looks alright. I can't see where the repair is, so that's come up well. These two are just locked together. This is the knob that I cast. I'll put that on the side. And that's the tone control. The last thing to do is put the back on, and I've refitted the power socket here. Somebody had drilled it out, no doubt to do some servicing, but I've put it back on. It's not that hard to make up a little servicing socket, so you don't really need to drill that off. I've got the little clips here. A bit hard to tell which one I made actually. It's that one because it's a better shape than the rest of them. There's the old hole. I should be able to put these in. These are new screws. The other ones are very rusty. There you go. This is the one I made. I'll put this one in and then I'll do the rest of them off camera. There it is. As I said, I'll do the rest of those off camera. They're all done, look pretty good. There's my one there. Can't really pick it from the others, so yeah, it looks good. Finally, this project is finished. I'll give it a test. Oh, this has been going on for weeks and weeks. So I'll put power on. It's warmed up.
ABC's a great RetrObright back tomorrow morning from 5, 6:12. ABC Radio Brisbane. 6:12 ABC Radio Brisbane. With Ellen Fanning.
5 minutes past 5 now.
Sounds pretty good. It's one of those days where there's so much interference you can barely listen to anything else. Yeah, it's just got, listen to it.
First tonight, US President Donald Trump.
Favourite sporting venues, and they're perfect for your...
It was carved out in 29 and 8, and now going for the doctor. He's nicely spoken immediately.
So, too much noise to even try it out tonight.
Chew over today's news. You don't want to miss that.
There it is, all done. It does work, it works well. Today, just too much noise. As I said, this has been going on for weeks. It's actually been going on for months. I haven't had a radio with so much trouble. It had sockets that were sparking, it had IF cans that were sparking inside. The case needed repairing down in the corner here, had watermarks on the top. The case came out alright considering, you know, it was pretty badly damaged. I'm happy with the back cleaned up nicely. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that, but that's come out nice. The radio's working, can't ask more than that. Oh, another thing I had to do was make a new knob for the side. I'm going to wrap it up. I've run a bit over the 30 minutes, I apologise for that. I hope you enjoyed following along in this 3-part series. and I hope you can join me next time for my next radio adventure.